This episode of the podcast is being sponsored by Irish Dance Theatre, who are presenting their annual winter production, The Celtic Gift, at various venues in Colorado. For more information, please visit www.irishdancetheatre.com. My name is Martin Percival, and you are listening to the Irish Dance Podcast, folk dance to phenomenon and beyond. Hi everyone, I'd like to introduce today's guest. He is a dancer, a performer, a teacher and a director. Please introduce Brent Pace. Hi Brent.
Hi Martin, how you going?
I'm good, I'm really good. Do you go by your full name, Brent Anthony?
No, well, I kind of put it on Facebook, so now people kind of go by Brent Anthony Pace. But when I competed, I went by Brent Pace Rabusin.
Rabusin. I knew there was a couple of names going on. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, my friends or like at home didn't really know me by that, but kind of everyone in the dance world knew me by like that because my mum was still is a dance teacher, and so
well, okay, so we'll start there with the question. So that's and did you always dance with your mum?
Yeah, so I started dancing. Well, I didn't always dance with her. I started dancing when I was about 3 or 4, and I didn't actually want to dance. Well, I sort of did, but I didn't. She was dancing, and she was teaching more to the point. And she took me to the World in 95 and 96 back in Galway and Dublin. And I remember it was kind of around the same time that Eurovision and Flatley came out and everything like that. And I remember being at the World in 1996, and Conor Hayes won the senior men's, and he was Australian. And I kind of got that inspiration and was like, actually dance, and then Eurovision had happened and everything like that in the preceding year. And I went, you know what, this is going to be okay. I suppose I didn't really give it much thought when I was 5. I wanted to play football, and then my mum, I happened to run an Irish dancing class, when football was on. So I ended up going to the Irish dancing class kind of begrudgingly at first, but then, and like every senior dancer in the school ended up teaching me, as opposed to my mum for the first year or two.
Yeah.
Do you know?
She didn't want to be bothered with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was quite a handful. So, yeah. And then I did a bit of dancing throughout the years. I danced with Shannara McMahon, with Gordon and Rose, and I danced with some of a lot of the lads still that I'm friends with today, like Bobby Hodges, Jamie Hodges, and some of the Chaplin brothers, and even Andrew O'Reilly, and people like that I grew up with dancing kind of from the Midlands in Australia. And then I ended up going as a senior. I moved to London when I was about 19, and I ended up kind of finishing dancing with Aaron Crosby. Okay, so yeah, I did a couple of years, and I think for me the most important thing about Irish dancing wasn't the fact that I was dancing and training and everything like that all the time. It was the opportunities that Irish dancing gave me. So a lot of Australians go and do like a gap year somewhere, and I was like, and a lot of Australians now even dance overseas, and I was probably going back kind of 9-10 years ago, I was one of the first to kind of go and do that and I was like, well, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to dance, and I'm going to go to London. And I ended up going to London because that was, it's a really big, cool city. And, I was like, and I was like, right, I can kind of base myself here, and I can do, dance, and I can kind of, get taught by someone who's, really amazing and kind of scary as well. He might kill me for saying that, but yeah. So that was kind of how it all unfolded over the years.
And so the competition, I mean, you were successful in competition, but how was the whole competition scene for you?
So the competition world, I think, has been a little bit of a double-edged sword. It's been really positive, but it can kind of throw you about. And especially being a teacher's child, you instantly have that pressure on you, which I think, I had natural talent, I suppose, in a way that I had rhythm and timing, but I had to work as well. And I think the thing for me was there was always pressure going into every fesh. You know, I enjoyed that pressure when I was really in dance, you know, in fesh mode. But then, you know, when you're 15 and you've got the summer in Australia, you know, and you're hanging at the beach and all that kind of stuff, training for the world in, you know, the middle of January is not exactly the most exciting thing going in the scalp. You know, so it's kind of, look, I absolutely loved I loved competing over the years. I ended up finishing with, I think I did 4 or 5 worlds, and ended up with 4 world medals over the years. And I was always consistently, we have a joke amongst my group of friends, I was consistently 6th at every major in the world.
Damn, so close, so close.
I know. And it was that set dance, let me tell you. I always the set dance. So, but it was just really, I've managed to come in, and I've had I suppose I'm really thankful and grateful of the career that I had as a competitive dancer, because I got to work with so many different teachers or teams of people over the years. And I also went from shows to back to competition dancing, and then I went from shows back to competition dancing on several occasions, and that made me enjoy competing and performing. And by the end of my kind of dancing, it became more about me having, I suppose, people coming up to me and saying, wow, you were so exciting to watch. You know, like there might have been something technical, but that was more satisfying for me by the time I was finishing up with my competitive dancing than it was making sure that, you know, it was just, you know, something that was really, I suppose, drilled. You know, I suppose I have a different take on it. I kind of, it was a part the fesh world, was a part of my life, you know, throughout all my years, you know, and it was always there, and sometimes I didn't want it there, and other times I did, you know. So it was, I find it a safety net, you know. It's really strange. I can walk into a fesh now, and there's something comfortable about it, you know, that you just can sit there, you know, people, the music's playing, and you just kind of relax a little bit, you know.
Right. It's a familiar world, and it's our family. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. You can go into any fesh in any region in the world, and you can bump into someone, you know, and you can sit there and, you know, I mean, my childhood was falling asleep at the back of feshes to like, you know, to like Jerry and Seamus playing hornpipes. You know, that was what it was. So if there is a really good sense of familiarity to the whole, you know, to the whole world. So.
Yeah. And how did you find it then, going like backwards and forwards between shows and the feshes? Like, it's a whole different skill set, right?
It is. Yeah, it is. A lot of people say that. I remember I chatted to a few different kind of mentors and people over the years about, you know, what it's like chopping and changing, and they're like, you know, finish your competitive dancing and then go and do your show dancing. For me, it was sort of the opposite. I had felt like I had kind of got to a certain point in my fesh, you know, dancing sort of career, I suppose you could say, and I got to a point and I wanted to expand on that, and I didn't really know how. I was getting bored of doing the same repetitive material, and I was starting to get excited by watching, you know, what different people in shows were starting to do, and people being out there and seeing the world and everything like that. And I kind of came into it. I always tell my mum, I wish I was born 10 years earlier. I would have been on tour for 20 years, you know. But right. I kind of came into it at the end of kind of like the heyday of the kind of, you know, the river dance sort of, then probably more your generation of that show career. Right. I kind of came in sort of on the tail end of it, and being able to kind of go into, you know, work on kind of different things. I remember when I was learning, I remember being at Chanel McMahon and I was learning a figure and I could not use my upper body for love nor money. It was horrendous. And I was like 13. I can remember the likes of Andrew O'Reilly and Daniel Triggle. I can remember them being like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You are just horrendous. And I was this like chubby little Australian boy who had no idea. And I think starting at the bottom made me then want to go, okay, I want to expand my ability and I want to be able to try something new. I wanted to kind of get out there and go. I kind of got to the end of high school and I went, I want to go and try a show. And then I was able to kind of learn things from what I'd learned and bring them back into my competitive dancing when I went back to it, which kind of made it a little bit more satisfying. Now, physically, on the other side, on the flip side of it, right. It almost killed me. It almost killed me. Because let me tell you, getting through a 2.5 step horn pipe is a completely different level of fitness than it is trying to do a show. So, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, it is amazing.
You don't realize it, that you're like, what? I can't do an up and over anymore? Getting back into a pair of light shoes. So yeah, so that was it. But thankfully that fesh, I don't know if my body could physically take it anymore. I look at some people that are like competing that is my age now, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing it, but good on them. Like if that's what they're doing, then kudos to them.
Oh, I know. I couldn't imagine having to do it now. I really couldn't. So for your professional, like your show career, then what shows have you? What's that looked like for you since you're backwards and forwards with it?
Yeah, so I suppose being based in Australia, I started out, I jumped on the back of the Rhythms of Ireland tour, and that was an Australian-based show, but it happened to be cast with mainly international dancers.
Okay.
And I ended up doing that, and I did that kind of for a few years, backwards and forwards, and I ended up going and doing that was choreographed, or is choreographed by Michael Donnellan, and that's one of his shows. And so I did that, and then the second time I went, and then I did a big tour of that for about 6 months, and then I went back to competing for about 18 months. And then he called me up and he said, will you come and do a tour of Germany, standard with any Irish dancing show. And he said to me,
right, yes.
So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And he said, look, I want you to do lead. And I was like, okay, that's exciting. And I said, who will I be doing lead opposite? And he said, oh, Bobby's coming back from Lord of the Dance to do lead. And I was like, oh, okay, that's exciting. I'd grown up with Bobby Hodges, so we ended up doing lead together in that. And then I came back to Australia after doing that, and my partner at the time, we'd ended up setting up like a small dancing class, and I was still dancing, I was still competing a little bit, but she was teaching, and so we were kind of doing that a little bit, and I ended up getting approached by some people in the beach town we were living in, Noosa, which is like a beautiful little spot in the world. I ended up getting approached by we're doing like a small gig, and we got approached by the director, he's like, the manager, of Fleetwood Mac, who said, wow. Yeah. And he actually said, oh, do you guys have a show, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no, but we're thinking of doing a small show. He goes, well, I think it'd be a great idea. There's not really much around, and everything like that. But sorry, preceding this, a friend of mine, Anthony Street, I had done some show work with him, and we had kind of just thrown a few ideas around, and he was working on his show that's touring now called Celtic Illusion. So I kind of helped, not so much produce or anything, but he ended up recording that, and I kind of supported him, as kind of like throughout the whole kind of project and everything like that, and kind of was great to watch that grow. So when I then had this conversation with this other gentleman, I was like, okay, that's exciting. Let's try and put together a small show. And I kind of thought to myself, well, look, I haven't done a whole bunch of big show experience, but before I'd moved up to the beach, I look back now and I think, okay, maybe that was silly, but I'd actually gotten into Lord, and I turned the contract down because, yeah, I know, dreadful. I turned the contract down and ended up moving up to the beach. I ended up moving up to the beach with this other girl, and, you know, we started a small dance class and everything like that. And I kind of look back in hindsight, and that was probably 7 years ago now. Now I look back and that was when they were doing the big 3D thing. I look back in hindsight, and I never ended up doing that show. And I think to myself, imagine if I had of, it would have taken me down a completely different path. But, you know, I've really enjoyed the path that I've gone down. I ended up then going from, you know, I was living away, and we had like a small dancing class and everything like that, which we were able to kind of launch off the back of a show called Dancing Down Under, which I think ended up being on like TG Kaha and everything like that, which myself and Kaylee and a girl called Karina and a guy called Tommy Wilson were all on. So we ended up kind of going around to like the schools and launching this dance class off that, and we did that for a good while. And then we really only had our summer breaks to go and do show work. So we ended up getting the next offer came through from Richard Griffin, who contacted us. We'd said, kind of chatted to him at the Great Britain and said, yeah, and we were, you know, interested if he'd had some things happening over the summer, which I knew it always did. So he said, yeah, will you come out and do Bad Guy for Gaelforce? So that was kind of the next thing we did. And I ended up going over there and doing that. And I just kind of, I didn't really look back. I kind of, once I took that, once I got given that opportunity to do lead for the first time, I kind of never looked back since, and I ended up doing lead as my kind of thing, you know. So then I put my own show, we put our own show together in Australia. It was a very small little project. We called it, it was at the time called Erin, A Taste of Ireland. And I got together with a few friends, one of whom was Sean O'Brien's little brother, Aidan O'Brien, who was my arch nemesis in competition. And I got together with a whole bunch of other dancers and friends. And I remember at the time, we're doing this little dance show, and this was 2012. We're doing this small dance show, and we just want some people who want to do it. And everyone at the time, I couldn't get dancers. I remember no one wanted to do it. It was like people were like, no, you know, you can't be a part of it. Their teachers didn't want them to. No one supported it, and I was like, "Oh, this is sad." Like, you know, like not in a bad way, but I was like, I was really a little bit upset that I was like, "Oh my God, I can't even get some dancers to put together a show." Which, on the flip side of things, now we just held auditions for a tour for 2019 for our the same show, which is now like a full scale touring show. And we've got like work for like 6 months of the year, most years. And we ran auditions, and we had 60 people at the auditions like last month. So things have really, when I say I'm happy with the path I've chosen, I genuinely mean that. As much as over the years, I've kind of always thought, I was like, I've not done one of the big two. I could. If I trim up a bit, I could try. Yeah. And then I'm like, because I really enjoy, you know, like the kind of, I do a lot of the back end of things and like the promoting side of it now, and I'm kind of heavily involved in the entertainment industry in that perspective, and it's kind of, I've had a career kind of come out of that, so it's that's kind of just where things lead, I suppose.
Well, I mean, that's an education in itself. That's amazing. All that you've done is absolutely fantastic. So, but to take a show from nobody wanting to do it to all of those dancers, that's brilliant. I had to call my friend, and she's still one of my great friends to this day. I remember having to call Hayley Kennedy, and she now living in Birmingham. And I said to her, Hales, no one will come and do my show. Will you please come up and help me out? And she said to me, oh my God, are you serious? And I was like, I only needed to cast 8 dancers for a week of rehearsals on the beach with like 3 shows at the end. And I was like, and it was just but at the end of the day, I don't think if we had started out like that,
we would have pushed, or I would have pushed it to become what it has come today.
Right.
Now, like Kaylee, obviously my partner Kaylee Moore and myself are like working together on the show, and we are having auditions come in from people who were in Riverdance or Heartbeat or Lord or Magic or one of those shows. They're applying, and we're getting applications online, and they're saying, oh, hi, I know that you guys, we'd love to come out and do the show, and we're on off season, or we don't have work for this period. And as soon as I started getting those through, we probably got the first of those like the end of last year, I like almost fell off my chair, because it was just really humbling, I think, so that's kind of, I suppose that's the crack with that. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, quite the journey. So what is the show called now?
So we have a touring show called A Taste of Ireland, and then we also have A Taste of Irish Christmas, which is so basically it is a trad show. I didn't try to reinvent the wheel, and then I work with obviously Kaylee now and Jack and people like that, and we haven't tried to reinvent the wheel whatsoever. I kind of when I was looking at what kind of a product we could put out there as a show, people love the story of Ireland, and people love the story of Irish migration. It's right. Something that has been done in America 1,000 times, but Australia is all convicts. And people,
right.
It is, so we tell a bit of a story through the show, and it is literally a story of a guy and moving to Australia and leaving his love in Ireland, and then they live happily ever after at the end. But it is told, and it starts out, it's very trad, and the Christmas show, he happens to leave Ireland at Christmas time,
right. Okay.
And they dance under the mistletoe, and it's a bit of a love story. So we've got A Taste of Ireland. We've got a tour next year. We've got the 2019 tour we're doing in Australia. We're going to New Zealand for the first time as well. We've got another tour coming up in the next month of A Taste of Irish Christmas, which is going to be really exciting. And in A Taste of Irish Christmas, we have a little elf character as well. We wanted to try to incorporate junior dancers into the show. And
sensible, yeah.
Yeah, and for a number of reasons, which I'll kind of, get into in a bit. But a big thing for us was how do we do this? So we created an antagonizing little elf character based on one of the kids that I'd had in my dancing class, and
brilliant.
She had a little bit of an attitude, good one, but a little bit cheeky. And I went, we can do something with you. I really like what you're doing. We did the end of year concert last year, and so she did something fantastic. So I went, right, we're going to put her into the show. How do we create this character? And we have this antagonizing elf that basically is like comes in and kind of teases the character Oisin. When he hits Australia, she starts teasing him and stealing his clothes and all kinds of things throughout the story, which gives it a really nice light-hearted kind of feel to Christmas. Yeah. So that's kind of that's how we started. I suppose we kind of sat down and thought we need to try and incorporate these kids into the shows, rather than them being kind of obviously they're a professional aspect of dancing, but especially out here in Australia, no one was, but there was either fesh dancing, and then you kind of got to 18 and went, well, unless I go and dance overseas, what am I going to do?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I can understand that. And it's, I mean, I run my company, Irish Dance Theatre, and it's the same thing. It's really difficult to involve people, but the ballet world seems to do it very well with the Nutcracker, and they always have kids involved, and I just think that's genius. It's a genius way of getting extra people into the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think on that aspect as well, and I think, so I sat down with, I was in America about 3 months ago, and I was over your neck of the kind of woods, and I sat down with Kaylee, and we were kind of looking at what was happening in the dance world. And for people who don't know, Kaylee has a very big background in musical theatre and the normal dance world. Her mum was in the Royal Ballet as well as being a world champion in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Her auntie is the one of the top artistic directors in Australia, and is part of just recently redid Wizard of Oz in Australia, and does huge kind of West End level productions. And then they grew up with people like Caroline O'Connor, who's on Broadway at the moment and who does lead in Chicago. So there's a huge kind of background there as well, of musical theatre and that normal dance world. And I think a lot of what happens in the normal dance world doesn't end up crossing over into the Irish dancing world.
Agreed.
Yeah. And so we kind of sat down, and we were in America, and we looked at what some of the dance companies were doing over there, and we went, well, we've got this Irish dancing show. That's kind of where we were at, and we've got, and we were like, why couldn't there be a company that's kind of that's an Irish dance company? And it doesn't have to, I mean, we could, the people who were in the company could end up feeding into the show, but, couldn't we do something where we could involve people? And they have dance. There's some in Australia. There's one called La Credo, and there's another one called the Dream Dance Co. And they have basically taken off, and they do rehearsals on Sundays, for example. And they've got, people who might be at school or uni or something like that, or not quite at the professional level yet. And they rehearse, and then they do it as a kind of not-for-profit project. So we kind of came up with this concept and we ended up calling it Pace. And I've never really had my name on anything, so I was kind of a little bit, I don't know, I get this kind of apprehension, I didn't even have my name on the school I taught, with. So I was really apprehensive about putting my name, but I was like, no, let's call it. So we ended up calling it the Pace Live Dance Company, and then everyone started, walking around laughing, going, PLDC, you're like Abby Lee now. And I was like, stop. I was like, I definitely the opposite. And so yeah, we kind of thought, well, let's get, and we also saw what you were doing with the Irish Dance Theatre, and we saw, we've seen what Mark Howard's done with Trinity, and we've kind of seen these, and even what Chris Nash and Jamie Hodges are doing with Fusion Fighters, who, Chris Nash was one of my roommates 10 years ago on the first tour I did, and looking at what they're doing with all that kind of stuff, and you've got Riverdance Summer School, and you've got all these other kind of different projects and studio to stage and everything going on, which are wonderful. If you've got $2,000 to fly to Boston and do it, right, and that was our big thing. And I had all these great kids that I'd taught over the years, and then they were able to get to 16, and that was it, 17, 18, and it was like, okay, well, and now that I look back on it, the reason I struggled to get dancers in the beginning, I think, was probably partially because it wasn't something you did in Australia. There was a handful of us that went off and did shows, and other than that, it was a big thing back in the 90s, but other than that, around my era and even now, going off and doing shows is just not a thing, because you might get a month tour or a 3-month tour, and you got to fly yourself over to Europe every time you're going to do it and everything. So we kind of went, well, we got to start something to give these kids something other than the fesh world to focus on. And if they can do it in every other form of dance, why isn't it something that we can give back and do in Irish?
Yeah, I think it's genius. So you're bridging the gap between between competition and the professional world, and that whole pre-professional group of dancers is crying out for some help.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's purely. I think a big thing for us, we kind of launched the Facebook page 3 days ago, and we haven't really told anyone much of what it's about. So I think the thing for us, but we've already, out of the auditions we had when we had 60 people audition, we had for the Alpha Roll, I think about 40 of them were for that Alpha Roll, and we're between 12 and 16.
Yeah, of course.
So we said, okay, well, let's do something between 12 and 17, or we decided, we looked and we found a venue for this January, and we went, okay, we'll do a week. Let's send out an email to, 25 of the kids who, and if, 10 of them get back to us, then yay, you look at us go, and we've had I think we ended up sending out 30 emails, and we've had over 22 reply and say yes. And we've had one who's unfortunately on holidays, and she's like, I wish I could do it, but I can't. And they're all coming, and the people who have replied are coming in from Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, all coming into Sydney. And we've even got a dancer coming over from Perth, because they're wanting to do it, and they're wanting to do something, and it's part of their summer. And they're doing a one week intensive rehearsal period with a show at the end, and we're really kind of focusing on the fact that it's a not-for-profit, and they're doing this to gain experience. And yes, they may be able to then audition for one of our shows. Right. I'm sure that we would look favourably upon one of them, but, I think even from a parent perspective, parents go from paying for dancing classes, or dancers go from paying for dancing classes to being paid to be in a professional setting, and it's that's kind of strange. There's not really a gap where you go from. There's not really an internship, There's no apprenticeship in Irish dancing. It kind of goes from you're paying your fees, or you're getting paid your wages. And I think for us the important thing is going, okay, this is something that we're doing for free, and we're doing it as a charity, and people are going to come, and we're going to sell tickets to the show at the end, and we're going to work to we're looking at getting some sponsors at the moment. So if anyone listening would like to put their hand forward and do some sponsorship, that'd be wonderful. But we're looking and putting the show on at the end, which will then obviously fund the ability for these dancers to have a week of rehearsals and collaborate with different people. And we want to get a whole bunch, which we've approached. We're going to slowly release who they are, but we're going to have some different producers / choreographers come in and do different numbers. The idea of the PLDC 2019 will be that we have a week where we set a brief. And we will go, our show is going to be based around, for example, like a figure story, and we are going to create a show, and we've got 5 days to put the show together, and we've got 6 choreographers, and they're going to do each number, and we're going to split everyone up and everything like that. So that's kind of the outline of.
Well, I saw it on Facebook. I saw your reveal, and I got really excited about it. When anybody is doing anything in Irish dance, I get excited about it in the kind of professional world, because I just think the more opportunities that are out there, the better for all of us. Totally, and so I'm really excited. I just think it's great for that particular demographic who in order to get further their professional career, they need the experience, the stage experience and the performance. I think it's an absolutely brilliant way of doing it. So well done to you. No pressure, 5 days trying getting it all done. Good Lord.
I know. We're going to be trying to do a lot of prep work. Look, I think a few exciting things we're already thinking about, which Kaylee told me I shouldn't have said, but I shouldn't be saying, but I will.
Yeah.
I know. Apparently I don't listen anyway, if you ask her. So, but look, we're looking, if all goes well in January in Sydney, we'd love to do PLDC. We'd love to do a week in the Western region, like LA possibly or something in August. I know we have some time in between tours, and we'd love to do one there and get a whole bunch of people to come in and choreograph it and everything like that, and just facilitate that kind of some kind of an opportunity for dancers to be a part of something that's different, you know?
Yeah. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Well done. Well done to all of you. I think it's great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So that's kind of, anyway, we'll have to see how we go. And obviously it's the first year and we're kind of 3 days into the launch and everything like that. So gosh knows what kind of, I suppose, roadblocks we may be faced with along the road to getting it off the ground. But you know, if we can just start giving a little bit, I think we weren't going to do it we were probably going to do it and push it back maybe 6 months and go, yeah, we'll do it slowly, but we've got a big tour going out and everything like that. So, but a big thing for us was I was at the Australian Nationals just recently, a few weeks ago, when we held our auditions, and I was at the state championships as well, and last year I was the president of the Queensland region of and commission, and having kind of sat kind of on an observational level, the numbers in Irish dancing in Australia are really suffering, and it was kind of sad for me to watch because I felt a bit helpless, I suppose, because for me, Irish dancing is something that has given me everything in life, and as it has for you and so many of us. Mm-hmm. And to sit back and watch the numbers when, you know, 5 years ago in the sevens, you had, you know, 35 kids at the qualifying, and now you have 10, you know, going, and there's more TCRGs coming through, and there's more, you know, but as an art form, I kind of feel like it's time for us to step up to the same plate as, you know, ballet and lyrical and contemporary, and go, well, you know what, that's what they're doing and it's working because they have kids left, right and centre. There's people that have schools of 700 and 1,000 students, you know, around the corner from us in Sydney, and there's 4 schools and they've all got over 500 kids, you know, and, you know, and Kaylee's mum has a class down the road, and I think, you know, she's got, you know, maybe 25, you know, so when you compare it, you kind of go, this is an art form that's given us so much, and the Riverdance era, kind of that boom phase, really provided, but all those people who started in the boom are now all TCRGs and ADCRGs. So what do we do to save our art form and give back a little bit?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I'm going to say amen to all of that, because yes, we do need to give back. I 100% agree, the same thing is happening in the West, in America. You know, the numbers of Feshna especially are dropping, and it is time. It's time for us to look to the other dance genres and industries to see what we can learn from them. I know it's very difficult for us to think that we're not doing everything wonderfully, but you're right. We've ridden the wave of Riverdance, and
no one learnt any marketing skills out of that, you know, in a sense, you know. So it was great for 20 years, and now we've kind of gone, oh, hang on, don't people just know what it is? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So, yeah.
And it is scary. Like, it's scary when you talk to younger people and they have no idea what Riverdance is. It's like, what? It was a world phenomenon. But of course, you know, if it's not relevant, it's not going to be. It's not going to be in front of them. So, and you know, because as the tours are getting smaller and this, that, and the other. So, I 100% wholeheartedly support whatever you're doing, whatever anybody is doing to promote Irish dance in any capacity. You know, I think it's great. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you, man. And it's good to have people supporting it, because, you know, it's been such an amazing part. It's pretty much been my life, like to quote Claire from when in Jig, when she says it is my life, it definitely is. And I think so many of us are like, yeah, it's mine too, so it's kind of like you kind of go, but hang on, I don't want to be like, and I know, like, I mean, I'm 27 now and I won't be having kids for a while, put it that way. But when I do, I know that like with my children, I'm like, well, I don't want to put you in a fesh against yourself, like,
yeah.
Like it's just, or it's like 4 teachers' kids battling it out because they're the only ones
right.
get dragged along to the hall, so yeah.
No, it is good. But just in terms of the teachers and everything, I think we all have to look at the industry and just see what we can be doing to just support our industry,
Yeah.
It's like lead generation and just getting more and more people through the door, like the funnel is
100%.
Yeah.
It's like in any other, whether it be sales environment or, like you mentioned, lead generation or any other kind of, business, or a cafe or something like that, we have to have our product marketed correctly, but I say this very lightly, but sometimes there is so much happening internally that people forget about the external, and people come out of their Oocta season or after the World or something like that. And for dancers, for example, at dance school training for the World in Australia, you are training, let's say, from November right through that period. Well, January's our summer. If you're going to get kids through the door or market your dancing business or studio, you're going to do it. You need to do it from the 12th or 10th of January through to the 10th of February. If you don't get them through the door, then you're not going to get them. That's the way they are here. It works in a kind of calendar year basis, and they go back to school at the end of January. Well, if you're training for the World and you've got you're taking kids over to the World, or you're taking with, a figure over or whatever it might be, then you don't have time to focus on getting kids through the door. You're focusing on getting those kids on the stage and making sure, and getting them to get up there and be trained, to the level they need to and everything like that, so it is very hard when we have to look at it as an overall product. So I think if some of us at the top end, in terms of the ones who are involved in projects like, yours and mine and, Fusion Fighters and things like that, then I think it's really important that we are the ones who are pushing the art form as a whole so that people know what it's about. And, people go, oh, actually, I'm going to go and do that. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, I need to find an Irish dancing school, you know. Not kind of the first thing, oh, there's, a kid wearing pink kicking a leg in the air on Facebook. I'm going to go to them and do whatever dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could talk about it for hours. I feel so passionately about it. So
no, I know. Yeah. I mean, we all have an obsession. Everybody that's involved in Irish dance has an obsession about it. But I think to your point of, us pushing, in the professional capacity, and so, that then drives some more interest to Irish dance, that needs to be reciprocated. So the teachers, and the students that are involved in Irish dance at the moment need to give the support to the professional, and especially stuff like yours that's doing it for charity, like for a non-profit organization, that kind of thing really it needs to have some support. So I'm I'm not telling people what to do, but I mean, we can all support each other. Yeah.
It's so true. I think people, we have this skepticism in Irish dancing. I mean, yourself that, there's this, oh, what's that? Oh no, I don't want my dancers being part of that till I know what it is. What is, you know, like, it's, you know, people, it's like, you know, because obviously there's, you know, transfers fly around and this happens and that happens. And, you know, like, and I think that was one of the things for me, like, I was like, I need to focus on the professional aspect and the show aspect as opposed to teaching, you know. So I kind of stepped back from teaching, and I still do a few workshops here and there, but I stepped back from the kind of teaching, and it's helped me because people are willing to send their dancers along to support projects like this because they don't have that fear that I'm going to steal their kids. Do you know?
Right. And the association rules and all of that. Absolutely.
Association rules and, you know, like, you know, just all those kinds of things. But if we can just, if we can use whatever they're doing in the lyrical and, you know, contemporary commercial world, then I think we are on to a winner, you know.
Yeah, it's proven. So, you know, we definitely should start looking there. Plus, Irish dance has changed. You know, it's not the demographic anymore of just, you know, Susie, whose mum was Irish or her grandmother was Irish. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah,
they're dance parents.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yay, good for you, good for everything that you're doing. No, I'm really excited and really happy for you. It's especially, you know, your side of the world as well. You know, it seems like they're, you know, crying out for it, really.
Yeah. And I like one of Kaylee's best friends is a girl called Sophie Holloway, and she's one of the head rockettes at Radio City.
Wow. Yeah.
And she's the only Australian that's ever become a rockette, and she's like Kaylee's best friend. They grew up together and danced together. So she's so involved in the commercial dance world. She did a bit of Irish back in the day, but she's so involved in the commercial dance world. And so we were like, hey, do you reckon you might be able to come in if you're around in January? If you could spare like an hour and talk to the kids and just be like,
amazing,
yeah, you know, and just have her come around and, you know, and involving other people who are so, you know, I know like people like I don't know if you remember Bobby Fox. He's
yes. Well, he was on. I interviewed him. He was in interview number 3 or 4, I think. Yeah.
Right. So Bobby is based in Australia, and he's heavily involved in kind of commercial dance world, the music world, and the musical theatre world in Sydney and Melbourne. So he's kind of someone who's kind of, you know. So I think. Being able to bring people that might be like that have done other things,
yes,
would be so great to be able to start bridging that gap. And, you know, and then the kids don't, you know, like the numbers that they end up doing for the show might not end up being like, you know, a forehand choreography light jig,
right.
You know, there's no reason they can't do some kind of more contemporary version to the number, you know, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of the theme, I suppose.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, anything that Bobby is involved in. I danced with him in Dancing on Dangerous Ground, and he's so talented. He's ridiculously talented, that man.
Well, I haven't reached out to him, but if I can reach out and possibly get him to come and say hi, that would be amazing. But I don't know how busy he is. So, yeah. But, we might. Who knows? It's all a big. We spoke to a few different choreographers over the last few days. We've had like 20 kids come back to us so far. So if we can keep the positive kind of ball rolling and get some support, then I think it's going to be. Hopefully, it's something that people will start to acknowledge, and you know. We'll see. When people say, someone asked me yesterday, what do you get out of it though? You got to get, and I said, I was like, I probably won't be as frustrated with dancing. I was like, and maybe I'll get like Irish Australian of the Year or something like that. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get on the top 100 list. Who knows? I was like, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's good to have a kind of something that's not so. The other shows and everything are obviously as a business, and I work quite a bit in the entertainment world, and it's good to have something that's not so much a commercial entity.
Yeah, but you're providing a service, and that's what business is all about. So there's a need for it. You're an entrepreneur, so you're providing a solution to a problem, and the problem is that there's a gap between professional and competitive dance. So it's great.
Yeah,
So I really do wish you all the success in the world. I really do.
Oh, thank you, Martin. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can come across to your neck of the woods and do something in America later in the year. Would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do people how do they find you?
Well, if at the moment we're just kind of as we finalise our information, our website's being finalised at the moment, but as we finalise our information, we are going to start putting it onto our Facebook and Instagram pages, Pace Live Dance Company, and we've had an amazing logo done. We've also used a lot of junior dancers for things like we've had a dancer from Adelaide. His name's Owen Guthrie. He's just finished high school, and he's one of our he might even still be in high school, but he's done our logos, and we're trying to involve those kind of younger dancers.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
So he's done our logos, and we're having some assistance graphics and websites and everything like that. So there's always little things for people to do to give them a little bit of work experience. But we've got our Instagram, which is Pace Live Dance Company, or at Pace Live Dance Company, and then we've got the Facebook, which is Pace Live Dance Company, and we will start putting information up on there, and then we will launch our website hopefully in the next by the first week in November. It should be ready to go. We have Milton Barr coming in and doing a photo shoot for us, and Milton's been a great supporter of he's a bit of a philanthropist when it comes to the Irish dancing. He has taken photos at Feshes for 20 years for free. So he's an amazing attribute to I used to run a fesh, and he did photos for that. So he is just he does amazing job. So he's doing a photo shoot for us, and that's I think on the 4th of November, and then we should be able to start getting everything underway, and we'll start releasing our dancers who are joining us, our cast members, and the most exciting part is we're going to release our choreographers as well, and who's going to be collaborating, and who's going to be our guest workshop I don't want to say the word workshop, I shouldn't say that. No, that's the red word. But they're going to be coming in and doing our guest choreographers as well, that we're going to be getting coming on board. So we'll be releasing those throughout kind of November as well. So yeah.
Excellent. I'm very excited to see what becomes of it all. I really am.
Awesome.
So there's just one more section, which is our rapid fire question section. Yeah. So yes, okay. So answer as you see fit. What is your favourite food?
Pizza.
Good man.
And burgers.
River dance or Lord of the Dance?
Ooh, Lord Dangerous Games.
That's very specific. I like it.
Feet of Flames, Hyde Park, 1998.
Okay, there you go. Very specific. Love it. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Everything is temporary. It's not that bad. Everything is temporary.
Yeah, I like that. Is there a book that you've read that's changed your life?
Yes. It is called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Say that again. Zen and the
Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
That sounds amazing.
It's a very philosophical book, but it's very heavy, but it's a good read. Give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so talking of heavy subjects, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Good man. So if you can if you can give us an example of success for you as a dancer and a challenge that you faced.
Success for me as a dancer. A challenge I faced, 3 clean rounds. Success for me as a dancer. You know what? Success for me as a dancer was quickly recovering. Well, I broke my ankle about 5 years ago, and 18 months later, I was back and they said to me that I was going to get arthritis and all kinds of things, and I was back and got back to getting a world medal.
Good man. Yeah, excellent. So you followed your doctor's advice, of course.
as all of us as good dancers do.
Yeah, right.
Their favourite word, rest, you know.
Is there a pet peeve you have as a teacher or as an observer of Irish dance, that just something that really gets under your skin?
Oh, there's a lot of things. People who don't hop.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Hit the floor and pick your feet up.
Pick your feet up. That's it. Kick your bum. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, and then finally, any wise words for aspiring young dancers? Be it competitively, professionally, whatever. Yeah.
My advice that I've given before, and I will stick by this, don't go and do I suppose, how do I say this? When you're training, make sure that you're happy within your life as well. I have said this to a lot of people, and I've said it in relation to people going and training for Irish dancing overseas. For example, if they're based in Australia and they decide that they want to go and train somewhere, go and train where you have friends. Go and train where you want to live. Go and train where you want to. If you get an opportunity to do a show amidst training for something, and you believe that that's something you want to do and you've really got a passion for it, go and take that opportunity. Take every single opportunity, and don't go and live in, like kind of the middle of nowhere in a, little shack out the back of somewhere on your own and chip away, trouble 1, 2, trouble, because that's what you think you have to do to get that, because it's the environment that makes you become successful. If you surround yourself with friends who are supportive, and and you live in a city that you get to have a great, I went to London and I was in, and I had a great group of friends there, and I, was kind of in that training environment. But when I made the decision to go over there, I could have made the decision and gone to, lots of different places to go and train. But I went there because at the end of the day, you can only put your best foot forward when you get on that stage. And if the adjudicator thinks that you're a 56, you're going to get a 56, and if the adjudicator thinks that you're the best, then they're going to give you the 100. But at the end of the day, you've got to become the best you can become, but still enjoy it. Don't come out of it. Don't resent decisions you've made over the years because you made those decisions and went, I'm going to train for a year and a half of my life, and I'm going to live in, the middle of nowhere, and that's what I need to dedicate myself to, and I'm going to be alone. No, you're going to be miserable, and you're not going to achieve that goal because you're not going to be happy in the process. You have to enjoy the process. I love the show world because I love the entertainment industry because I love the process, and I love my job of putting together. I love running events. I love, I used to run a fesh, and I love running events because, I love the process. And if you enjoy the process of things, I think that you'll be a little bit happier, and you'll be able to achieve your goals more.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Irish Dance Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook at the Irish Dance Podcast or on Instagram at the Irish Dance Podcast. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.